actually wanted to start, as we collate your calls, with Bailey Smith. Now, I know there's been a bit said around this player in recent times. A lot of it prompted by an unfortunate downturn in form, his position, and all sorts of opinions and theories have been floated off the back of that around what should and shouldn't be done with Bailey Smith. Now, I don't want that to cloud what I'm about to say, which has been fact now for a while, certainly since well before Smith's form dip. And that is that Geelong have had meaningful conversations about trading for Bailey Smith. Now, the Cats are interested in bringing Smith down to GMHBA Stadium, and in fact, they've been workshopping it behind the scenes for some time. Geelong have contacted Smith's management. Now, I need to say, in the last week or so, probably 16 clubs have done the same, reached out and inquired. But for mine, Geelong's track record in this space is very solid. We know that. When they set their sights on a player and lock in, history says they sell the vision. And you know what I'm going to say next? The lifestyle, that L word, better than most. They had considered Darcy Parish, but all signs now point to him staying at Essendon. Now, Smith's contracted at the Winton Oval until 2024, but really, I mean, if he plays half forward for the next 18 months, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand he's a chance to leave. Now, he was sick against Collingwood, I'm told, and really probably shouldn't have played. Playing half forward with Jamara and Aaron Norton marking everything wouldn't have been an easy task anyway. He didn't train yesterday. He's in bed sick today, and he won't play the Swans tomorrow night. He's had some injury issues that Luke Beveridge has mentioned, so there's some alibis there. Anyway, it's a watch for now, just in terms of his direction. I haven't mentioned it until now because it appeared a long way down the road. But in light of recent events and the plethora of registered interest from other clubs in recent days and weeks, I thought it was time that we brought it to light. The Dogs need him. Will desperately want to keep him. So it's a watch going forward. Not unlike, I suppose, that other player Geelong want, Sean Darcy. Now, the Fremantle big man also contracted until the end of 24, but unlike Smith, Darcy will be a restricted free agent next year.
This is what I do, okay? And I'm not saying this is 100% accurate, but I look at the fact that no one up until this point has talked about Bailey Smith actually maybe moving on from the Bulldogs. I mean, everyone was talking about his form, but it certainly wasn't at the forefront of my mind. Now he's about to move. Now he's about to move on, or he wants to move on, or maybe be better going somewhere else. I mean, he's only been played out of position, so to speak, for a couple of weeks now, and they've tried him, and that's not unusual. Coaches try and do different things with players and try and find another spot for him, or whatever.
Form's been down a bit.
Whatever it might be. But then you think, okay, well, Sam McClure, who's Sam connected to? He's managed by Paul Connors. Who's Bailey Smith managed by? He's managed by Paul. You start to look at
Sam's got some
the
history
connections
with,
between players.
Bailey Smith, he coached him at junior level,
exactly,
school level.
So he might, maybe he knows something behind the scenes as well. So I think there's probably a lot more to it. I think there probably is a lot more to it.
So you think there's something in this?
Well, I do think there's something in this.
In a nutshell, you think that the
you join the dots. You join the dots in all this, okay?
No, I see where you're going.
And with Paul Connors, okay, Paul is a very powerful person in football. The football people will tell you because he manages so many of the big name players in this game. And therefore, he's got the ability, like he's doing contracts with some players and he's looking at other players and the potential for them to move on or whatever it might be, where they might be going, that type of thing. Like, he is a huge player in the game.
Yeah, well, so that's right. So, I mean, you've taken a bit of a leap, but you put them all these things in the wash-up and this is where you get to. I don't know, but it would appear from Sam Edmund that it's the Geelong interest is real. He said it's a fact. So when Sam Edmund says it's a fact, I believe Sam, right? Then someone here off the Temper Tech says, Cotton On, big connection. Bailey Smith and Geelong, both sponsored by Cotton On. Maybe you throw that in. I don't know. This is all of the rumour mill that's going. I was really surprised when his name was mentioned as a potential trade period. Luke Beveridge did what Luke Beveridge should do as a coach, come out and say, hey, this is just rubbish, move on.
It's going to be an interesting watch. This whole space is going to be an interesting watch because, you've got Damien Hardwick, who's managed by Paul Connors as well. And, if he ends up at the Gold Coast Suns, I mean, it's real that, a manager of a coach has tried to help the coach secure players in the past as well. So you've got that playing out. These are all the things that play behind the scenes in regards to coaches moving and players moving. And
this happens too, right? And this is this is you're saying the linkings of this and that. So Sam McClure had this to say on the Real Footy podcast about Bailey Smith. So this is the narrative that has started a bit. So it's been floated on Footy Classified, then on the Age Real Footy podcast. So my question is this, right? So, and I rate Paul Cornes highly as
No,
well.
he's one of the best. And he's proven that over a long period of time.
So
we're not criticising him.
Is this good for Bailey? What's happening now? Ultimately this is all that matters with Paul and his group, is that I want what's best for the players. So if he thinks it's at the Dogs, great. If he thinks it's at West Coast Eagles, great. Whatever. But his number one priority, and it always is for him, and is his players, which it should be, is what's happening now. The speculation, this, and people's various media people saying, oh, maybe it's good for him to go somewhere else. Maybe someone else. So then, the coach comes out and says, well, this is this. And then now Geelong's been, is this good for Bailey Smith? Can you shut this down? You can shut it down.
You can try and shut it down. That's exactly what Bevo tried to do a couple of days ago. He tried to shut the whole thing down. And since then, it's actually got bigger because there's more speculation around it. And I don't know, like my ears pricked up when I heard that conversation twist to him moving out of the Bulldogs. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. Like we've gone from somebody who's just had a couple of bad quarters of football, a bad game here and there, playing in a different position, to all of a sudden, hang on, we're talking about him now moving from the Bulldogs and going somewhere else. I mean, that's a massive leap and a change in direction and conversation.
And knowing, Bailey is, well, I don't know him at all, but he's had some challenges in different spaces.
Yeah, in the mental health area.
Yeah, I don't know whether this would be good, whether this is a conversation that is now out in the public forum with all the speculation. If as the manager, you might just say, this is not great. We need to shut this down. No, Bailey's he's a Western Bulldogs player and loves the joint and wants to stay there. Maybe you can't say that. I don't know, Whispers, but for me, it's come from nowhere. I hadn't heard it. I never heard it, and now 3 or 4 days in, it's a story.
And it does look like it's got legs. It does.
Well, we'll wait. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Hey, John, I wrote about Bailey Smith last Thursday in The Age. I think this is a developing story because as a 19, 20-year-old, this kid was ready to take the competition by storm. He's the most famous player in the game in terms of the younger generation with his social media following. I think he's overtaken Dustin Martin in that aspect. The endorsements were coming and his form was great. On the biggest stage, his form was great. That was as a 20-year-old. There's been issues since off the field, which have now transferred onto the field. I don't know if the off-field issues are still there, but certainly his performance on field is not having the same impact. He's now out of the side this weekend because he's ill. How have you seen this unfolding for a young player who clearly puts a lot of pressure on himself? He sets high standards. And he demands excellence of himself, and I don't think he handles it that well when he doesn't perform to his expectation, let alone everyone else's.
Yeah, that's it. And I think with Bailey, I don't really know, Bailey. We've got the affiliation of the number 6, and I watch him closely because of that. And his year this year had been okay up until the last 3 weeks. Yeah, his kicking efficiency was down a little bit, but he was still finding plenty of ball. Not to probably the same dynamic level that we've seen in the past, but it wasn't a disaster by any stretch.
Wasn't impacting this. His real strength was his ability to be a goal-kicking midfielder, and often that was as a high half forward, and the opposition intercept defender would drop off him. He'd come up, and he was really smart to impact at stoppage, but then with his endurance, he reset back inside forward 50. The intercept defender had dropped off him, and he made you pay on the scoreboard, as we saw in big finals. He destroyed Port Adelaide off the wing in a final, and he did the same against Brisbane as well. So that has dissipated. He's only kicked 3 goals for the year, I think it is. So that's the one aspect that's changed and has been noticeable.
So year number 5, and look, I sort of go back. I always try and think of my own scenarios because it's real for you. So therefore, you go, okay, well, there was 1 or 2 years there that as much as you're progressing, you just stall a little bit as a player, and then you go again. And this might just be the year for Bailey where that is a little bit of a stall, and we'll see him come back, next year and be probably the better than what he was in the past. So, I had one of those years under Peter Road where I only kicked 19 goals for the year, and you're thinking, where's your footy at? Where am I actually going within this lineup, within this structure? No, that was as a forward.
Gee.
So you have these years. They do happen. And so then you geez, and then you go. And so, but what you do is you get to the end of that year and you reset things, and then all of a sudden you get back to that same level again and start progressing to the level that you expect within yourself. And that's what it is for Bailey, because he's set a bar, and maybe he's not at that bar this year, but there's no reason why he can't get back to that at some point.
Jono, you've been self-deprecating. I've just looked up your stats. You had 73 goal assists that year, so it was
I did not. No, I didn't. I didn't touch it.
And he was all Australian.
I did not touch the ball.
Before we go any further, let's listen to Sam Edmund on Bailey Smith this morning.
Geelong have had meaningful conversations about trading for Bailey Smith. Now, the Cats are interested in bringing Smith down to GMHBA Stadium, and in fact, they've been workshopping it behind the scenes for some time. Geelong have contacted Smith's management. Now, I need to say, in the last week or so, probably 16 clubs have done the same, reached out and inquired. But for mine, Geelong's track record in this space is very solid. We know that. When they set their sights on a player and lock in, history says they sell the vision. And you know what I'm going to say next? The lifestyle, that L word, better than most.
Mackie's been sniffing around.
He has. Well, I know the lifestyle.
You're living it.
Actually, if Bailey makes the decision, I've got a spare room, so I think I'd be able to accommodate him. But no, like that's going to happen for Bailey Smith, because yes, this is when the talks start. A year and a bit out from you being out of contract, and if you haven't secured an extension by now, then the conversations start. Clubs will start inquiring, because he's a top line player in the competition. So
and they're keen to build their midfield.
That's right, and it's on the Bulldogs now to obviously try and secure that signature of Bailey Smith. It's an important signature for them to secure with some of the young players they've got coming through, and how Bailey certainly assists the next push for a premiership for the Western Bulldogs. So it's a big call for him over the next 12 months, no question, and clubs will circle, and it doesn't surprise me if Geelong and Andrew Mackie are having conversations in the background.